morning.
Good morning.
Adam McKinney, Electronic Communications 911 this morning. Today I am bringing to you guys for signature, if possible, a tower site lease agreement for our Kinport Tower. Basically what's come about on this is that Kinport Tower is owned by Day. It's been donated, the space, to us basically in the interest of public safety communications for the last 20-ish years. They had some power issues up there last winter. Their risk management team has decided that they would like to fix that stuff, and in order to do that, they've decided to start charging a lease to the people that are up there. So the lease that they've offered us is actually very reasonable, $650 a month. It's a 5-year deal with automatic renewals every 5 years for 5 additional periods, so 25 years total at a 4% increase year over year. Period over period, so 4% increase every 5 years. This was kind of anticipated. We've got the money budgeted in the 911 budget for it, and unlike our other sites that we own, this is one that we share. So there is, we're not going to be the only unit, entity, agency that's going to have one of these lease agreements, but that's going to be able to use, they're going to be able to increase and fix that power issues that they had up there last year and increase some of the structure and stuff. So that's what this is for. I think it's pretty reasonable, and we have budgeted for it. So.
Question I had real quick and looking through this was the lessor at its full discretion may authorize approved installation contractors but will require a $2,000 installation inspection fee. Is that like if they have to go replace our thing, or?
I actually believe that's if they have a third party that wants to go up there and put more gear that's not our gear in there. Day Wireless will still continue to maintain our gear, and our agreement with them, we don't have any fees for them to go up and work on our stuff. Okay. But again, that's a shared site. We share that site with ISP, Power County, the Tribe. There's multiple agencies that have gear in that site. So I believe that's if somebody wanted to bring a third party to go up and work on the site, that they would be subject to that fee to make sure that their work done was up to par. So.
Okay.
Brian did read through this.
Alan did actually.
Oh, Alan did?
Yes.
But only legal.
Yes, absolutely. Alan went through it. In fact, up until yesterday afternoon, he had some changes he wanted. They are implemented in the one in your package. Christy updated it this morning. So that you have the most up-to-date one, and we got the legal information that we wanted from the county side put into it. So.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the contract with Day Wireless as presented.
Have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
All right, you're up.
Okay, so in your packet, this is the personnel policy and standard operating procedures for HR. So I guess we can start with policy. We met last week and went over this, and you had recommended a few changes. And so the changes that have been made are highlighted when I sent it, so hopefully you can see. But I'll just kind of go through them real quick. On page 8, I added a few points to that weren't previously there that I talked about under the prohibited conduct. It talks, I think, pretty generic stuff. Nothing should be too. Stop me if you have any questions about that, or any of this. On the page 33, under the employee benefits, the vacation leave maximum accrual to 40 hours, right? As we had discussed. And then on...
And paid at the hourly rate, right? We took out 4 days.
Yeah, there was a thing that said at the then current hourly or daily rate, and I took out the or daily.
Perfect.
Yep. As we had discussed. Okay. The more significant change was with the sick leave, and that starts on page 34. As per our discussion last week, you had requested 320 hours was the maximum, so I put that in there. And then the way the payouts work, we divided it for those that were hired before November 1st, and those after. And so the ones hired before November 1st, really, it's the same as the prior policy. Those hired after, there's not going to be a payout, except for with layoff, or there'd be a payout to a beneficiary if the employee died.
Now, I wanted to do a quick update for the board. I ran a report, a legal report, current as of, yesterday, on what employees' leave rates are. And we have 386 employees that are eligible to accrue leave. And I broke out how much leave those employees had. So we have 163 employees with less than or equal to 100 hours of sick. We have 54 employees between 100 and 200 hours. We have 42 employees at 200 to 300 hours. And we only have 127 employees with more than 300 hours, which is basically 33% of our employees. So this change in policy will basically affect 33% of our employees, most of which are our longevity employees. 81 employees have more than 480 hours of that 127 total. So I just wanted to provide your impact of changing that 320 hours and who that's really going to impact. Not the bulk of our employees. The bulk of our employees are well under 300. So it's our longevity employees that this will hit.
Can I ask a question regarding that?
Sure.
Tony Money, Bannock County Sheriff. I guess I was wondering what the motivation was behind that change in the sick. Other than cost, which is the obvious. I mean, was it a matter of big payouts? Because to me, I thought that was kind of in the minimal, like the stats say, but it usually hit, like if a person retired, let's say he had 700 hours, that usually was somebody that was here and was a career-long person. And I think having that ability to have that payout and even the sick time, it created those career-minded people, you know, people that came to work. I mean, I know at the sheriff's office we have quite a few of those longevity people, but that was part of the reason, is they really, I mean, they came to work. And I don't know, I just wanted to see what the mindset was there, because I felt like some of our longevity people that are in that current position now that can retire are probably going to, I have a feeling I'm going to retire then, which I don't want that to happen.
Well, I was the driver behind that, and the big one was the payoffs, and that's why we set it. So for our existing employees, they're not going to see anything different. They'll still get their payout when they retire, whether they retire tomorrow or whether they retire in 5 years. But it's all these employees that start now, or November 1st, that's where we're not assigning a cash value to that sick leave anymore.
At all.
Other than if 320 will become the new max. So if you're at 700, any leave you use won't accrue until you get down below the 320.
Right.
Correct.
The other issue we're going to have is we're going to have to get creative on how we're going to implement that in payroll, because if we set that max at 320, that'll wipe away all that extra leave. So the only thing I can think of to address that is we're going to have to add another sick code, use the regular sick code of 320, and then if you have 720, we'll take that 400 and put it in a new category, and then they'll have to make sure that timesheets, when they use leave, will use this first.
Okay.
So that's going to be a little bit of extra finagling to make sure that's going to work. We haven't tested it yet.
Well, I've softened a little bit on the 320 and 720. I haven't softened on the cash payout, but I softened a little bit on the hours. So, where are you at? Are you still in the same spot, or?
I am, right now. Like I say, what happens when people retire and we have to wait, 5 months to hire? It's a challenge.
Okay.
The county, we've never, as far as I understand, we've never banked that money.
We don't necessarily bank it. There are departments where we budget for it and anticipate it.
Right.
But we definitely do have those departments that hit us unexpected.
And so, I don't know, just in the industry, everywhere, that's what they've done. They've come down on that, so they don't have to have that money banked, that liability all the time.
Is there a possibility to, let's just say, an employee that is 55 or older to utilize that bank time into COBRA?
We've talked a little bit about that.
That was part of our discussion, and I don't know if we reached a decision one way or the other.
No, we really didn't. I didn't explore how that would work.
Yeah, I didn't.
But essentially, we're still paying the money out, but we're not paying out the lump sum right now.
Right.
We would just have to budget.
Every budget year.
Which is the direction I was comfortable with, because that reduced our liability.
Right.
And it did serve as a benefit to the employee ongoing. But
Until
like I said, we haven't
now
really gone
runs out
that
and
far.
they're on their own. Which to me, I'm just trying to discover ways to create that sense of longevity where you don't, I know we have always talked about longevity pay, and I always thought that was part of that created that longevity, knowing that you had that part there. I'm just trying to tell you guys the view that I see as far as, instead of longevity pay, some people saw that as, man, if I come to work at the end of that's my longevity pay.
Or even as you get older,
Yeah.
it's, if my health goes bad while I'm still working, but then that again creates a hardship because,
Somebody else has got to fill in.
exactly, especially depending on the positions.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, just like I told Ryan earlier, we're not making a decision here today. I want Terrell's input. Terrell, I've talked to him a little bit. He's had a lot of different experiences here just lately in looking for a job, hiring, and what goes on and stuff. So I think that his input is invaluable to us. So I'm not set on anything right now. That's the way I
Which is
feel.
why I wanted you to come today, so you could voice your thoughts.
Okay.
So we could factor that in. But for me, the impetus was, we are the only place I've ever heard of that pays out sick leave.
I know a lot that pay percentages of it. Not all of it.
Yeah, but
percentage of it.
it still drives me insane that we do that. And so, that was the reason for looking at that, going, all right, let's release that liability, change the hours down, because we want to have people come to work. And I also wonder if the mentality hasn't shifted, that longevity is not an issue like it used to be. It used to be the gold watch crowd, I'm going to stay so I can get my gold watch, but
We don't
I
have that.
don't think we have
Well, I don't
that
think
anymore.
You're right.
anything, it just seems like the newer hires are using their time as fast as they get it.
Correct.
And that's why the longevity side of things, the people that are here, they've really, they're responsible with their time, their work hours, and I don't know. But I still think there's people out there that we get lucky and hire that same mindset, but I don't know. That's just my thoughts.
It's definitely not the norm like it used to be, you're right.
Yeah.
Correct.
And if I can speak, and that's why we did divide it into two categories of employees hired after November 1st and those before, so we're not harming those ones that have been here and put in the years.
All right, and we were discussing that too, and any new hires aren't gonna know any different,
Right.
so.
It's kind of more of a future thing.
Right.
You're right. And part of it too, I told the commissioners, is we do a lot of new hire orientations and a lot of exit interviews, and a lot of, my experience is the new hires don't even know about this benefit until we tell them about it, so it's not really a carrot to help with recruitment. But when they're leaving, some do, but a lot of them are also, it's like, oh, that's a nice benefit I didn't know I had. So it's not, to some it's very important, to a lot, they don't even know they have it.
I would say that would be the younger
Yeah,
ones that we hire.
Yeah.
Some of the I don't know, the more experienced, the ones that are, like, we just hired some part-timers that were retirees. They understand all the benefits.
sure,
So
they've been around.
it really depends on which
Yeah.
generation we're hiring from.
Yeah.
So,
But for me, the big part is, it is a financial liability that we haven't planned for. I mean, partially, some offices have, but I don't know how many of them have planned for the 720,
Well, what we do is during the budget process, we see who's eligible for retirees.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we try to track who we need to budget for.
Yep.
And then we look at the liability as of that date, and that's what we budget.
Right.
So,
it's, to me, it's money set aside that we could utilize in different ways.
well, that's all. I was just wondering how big of a problem it was at that higher hours.
Well, you told us the other day, the highest payout we've had has been like $84,000 or something, as I remembered. No, which,
I think it was 80, I think it was 41.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was,
I thought you told us that there was one in the 8.
I know who it is.
It seemed like you
How
were
do I not have it?
40 some odds.
Hang on. Let me get there. I
I
gotta
know,
have
it
it.
irritated me.
I do have it.
I know that.
It was 41,000.
41,000.
Yeah. Some of that also plays into flex schedules, appropriately documenting time,
Right.
Yes.
working from home, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But, yeah, our largest one.
I just wondering.
Well, I'd like to say, with COVID and different things, we figure out a lot of ways to pay people and do things. And to me, 720 hours is a lot of hours out there just to be liable for. It's tough.
Like we were talking about, 720 hours works out to what, 6 weeks?
You're gonna make me do math
No,
again.
It depends on if
9 pay periods.
10 hours or 8-hour shifts.
90 weeks. 720 divided by 8 is 90 days. excuse me.
18 weeks.
3 months.
3 months.
Yeah. We started looking at it like.
Somebody was telling us it was a month and a half. I don't
That's your month.
But like I say, it's still a conversation piece to me. And like I said, I visited with Terrell a little bit. I want him to go through it, and, I mean, he's experienced a lot right now in what they do out at the site too, which is one of the big employers around here, and so I'd like that input.
Are you hoping for next Friday? Because that'll give me time to see if we can work this out. We can test it in
Yeah,
our
Terrell-
system
Yeah, Terrell won't be here this Friday, so.
next Friday, yeah. That'll give me some time. I can have payroll try to see if we can get the extra pay code, if we can utilize that, if that's gonna work for the tracking of it. Otherwise, we'll just have to,
Well, there's a lot of different areas that we're talking about too, and that he's talked about. They have X number of vacation days and what they call town days or whatever he called them, or something, which is sick leave. But if you have a funeral, if you have this, if you have that, if your kids are sick or whatever, you take it and you utilize. So there's some other conversations going on, but it is serious conversations that
Yeah.
I feel like we need to do something. The holiday pay,
We're going next.
all those on rotating shifts, they get 20 hours more a year.
Well, if you're not working, is that what you're saying? If you don't work that day?
No, if you don't work that day, or how do we pay them if they do work that day? Do they get time and a half for the time worked and 8 hours of holiday pay? Or do they get holiday pay for the whole time that they work?
Wow.
The standard is,
Right.
holidays are paid at 8 hours.
Right, and I don't think that's an issue. It'd be the time you're off. And if you're on a 10-hour shift and you're off, and you get the 8 hours, you gotta make up 2 hours somewhere. And I'm talking about strictly weekday people. Somewhere they've gotta make up that 2 hours, and that's what's problematic.
And they haven't before.
Yeah. So last week, the discussion, as I understood it, and as I modified the policy, was if you're typically on like a 4-10 schedule, during the week of the holiday, management's gonna try to get you on a 5-8 that week, right? So that you can take the 8-hour holiday and work the other 32 hours.
But that won't work if your office is closed.
Right. And here's the thing, though, that we're talking about maybe 10 employees. That's for us.
For you.
Guys, but then we got Road and Bridge.
You got Red and Bridge, you got juvenile and
You have landfill too.
landfill. Hey,
And so we have to have some flexibility.
all I'm saying is,
Yeah,
as we come in and we start talking about on call,
Right.
well, there's other ways that people are compensated that they don't want to talk about. Like I say, they're just getting 20 hours more a year of pay because of holidays, because they was on a 10-hour shift.
Well, that part doesn't bother me. It's the ones that are on the day shifts that are, and having to make it 2 hours, which is problematic.
and so, and sometimes policy can't always address 100% of the scenarios, right? So you write the policy to address the 95%, and then that extra 5, we just have to have somewhere in there where you can make an exception based on, the situation. with the
Sent us a report, a deal, that said that they would have their people either take 2 hours of vacation, or to make up the 10 hours, or they would have them work an extra hour a couple of days during the week.
That's the way to do it too.
And that's what we do, that's what the part-timers do right now,
Yeah.
is
Well, that's what the part-timers do.
they shift their days and then,
But they
yeah.
don't, they don't have any other benefits.
Right,
That's-
yeah. But I meant, it'd be the same as if your office people, they would just work 2 11-hour days instead of, so they'd work 2 11s and then 2 10s, or 1 10.
Or burn 2 hours of vacation.
Yeah, or comp if they're
Or
eligible.
comp,
A lot of
I mean,
office
comp.
staff doesn't get comp, but vacation definitely. Sure.
Or sick.
Hey, no. That's not supposed to be loud.
I don't want to hear it.
So anyway, that's how I rewrote it, and, if you want to look, and then on the page 34, Christy and I were talking, and where we mentioned, it's number 2C, where I wanted to change that line, I just didn't have time to fix it in your version, to include something about the employees with over 320 hours due to prior policy will continue to have that accrued leave available for their use, right? So we thought that was important to put in there. So we'll get that in the next draft. Okay. So, yeah, and Jeff, you said, or Commissioner Huff, you said you were softening on the 320. Did you
I
want to?
wasn't changing, I was just softening on my stuff.
Softening, okay, I just
I was being a little more open-minded than I was before.
give you a chance, yeah. We had talked about like the 400 area, so.
Well, and like
We talked about the 200 area too.
Okay, so I guess, what else? On page 36, I made a little tweak about, on I, where it said, accrued compensatory time will be paid out at the time of transfer. That was just a clarification we made last time. And that really, those were the only adjustments based on our conversation previously.
Well, I think we want to kind of get a rough draft, and I think we want to send it out to all elected officials too.
I think this is close enough, we can do that and get comments on it.
Okay.
Did you see the draft? It also gives 15 days of military leave.
I saw that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how did you get a draft? Was that from me or from someone else?
I think it was from you.
Yeah, I think I already sent it out.
Okay.
But I think that was when you originally sent it out. That's not since you have the.
Not since today's. Right.
But that's what I'd like all elected officials, and then we can have an elected officials meeting, and have some conversations about it. And,
I just, maybe in this process, that just, I mean, I get the day-to-day and what the going status is with most organizations, whatever. I just hope that we keep in mind that, I hope we do something maybe that separates us a little bit from everyone else to make it more enticing to be here and not in another county, that we keep that in mind.
So
And we have.
what is not separating us right now, or what is
I don't know.
what is keeping?
I don't know. I just, whatever it is, I just hope we keep in mind that we can do something that maybe is a little more enticing than the next county or whatever, to make it enticing for people to come and work here as far as, and you guys have, I'm just saying, as we make these changes, I hope we don't just fall in line with everything and just be like everyone else. Yet, maybe keep in mind, maybe we do something a little different that makes it better. That's all I'm saying, you know? And I don't know what that is. I just hate to go follow the crowd, because I've never been that person that follows. I like to do things, maybe make it a little more
I'm just curious if you've heard of something creative
Yeah.
that somebody else is doing that we're not, that we can look at, because I'm not aware of anything, but I don't operate in your world, so.
Right. So,
Yeah.
Well, I think it stems down to, I was talking to our jail yesterday, we're still down 10 employees in the jail, even after we just hired a couple new ones, and I know you're saying generally that people don't look at some of these benefits, but I was just talking to a couple guys from Bingham County this last week, and they call us and compare their benefits, and sometimes we do have to do lateral transfers, and I think when you start taking away from that, that affects some of those longevity people, when you start taking away some of their benefits, and we don't want to get in a situation where we're having people look other places where they're going to seek other benefits, because I think in the law enforcement realm, there still is agencies that are getting quite a bit of benefits with their sick and with their vacation, like I'm pretty sure like with Pocatello, they don't have a limit on their sick, they just roll it all over into, paying off their health insurance when they retire. So when people are searching, they are looking at some of those benefit packages, and plus I just feel like, especially, I've talked to some of those people that have worked at the county for a lot of years, and yeah, that sick time, they look at that as, well, that's kind of something that I've earned over these years because I've been a good and faithful employee, so we've got to, in my mind, I think we have to be careful about, we have to look at that side of things too, of how those employees take that and look at that as that being a benefit to them for being such a loyal employee and having that longevity over those years.
So, and again, I'm asking this question because I'm not understanding, I'm not tracking where you guys are coming from. We left the people that are here alone. We did nothing to their sick leave other than instead of accruing beyond 700
I
hours.
clarify, I was under the understanding that the 720 hours is going to be cut for even the employees that already work here down to 320.
No, if you
Only if
use
you use
it
it.
You will not, if you used it, you won't accumulate anymore,
Right.
so you'll still be.
until you get under 320,
Okay.
yeah.
So those employees, you know,
That
they'll
have
be
worked up
like,
to that point.
they'll be like, never using their sick time again, but they're close to retirement.
The benefit is, for those of us that lose our vacation, and you guys have a handful of those individuals too.
And I'm one of those guys, I've been losing sick time all year because I've been at the max, but I still don't want to take away from those people that like all of a sudden now they can't earn that, okay? Because I think some of them look at it that way.
And you know, you guys all know, we all know the ones who are never gonna have sick time.
Yeah, and there's
On the
those
books.
too, you know.
But the ones that do are the ones that are, you can rely on. That, I guess it's kind of the mind shift that you have about the sick time and the accruals is like, man, those people that accrue are the ones coming to work, and there's really not a lot of them. And that's the hard one because I feel like, gosh, are we gonna be a detriment to these people that are committed to this place and coming to everyday work and doing their thing, you know? But the ones that are not showing up and using it as fast as they can, those are the ones that are always problematic anyways, and you're just going, man. That's what I'm saying, I just hope we just keep in mind that I hope we do something that separates us from everyone else.
Well, and those are really good points, and part of this balancing act is what are the, you know, total compensation, the salary, benefits, leave, it all. What do the employees value most that we can, and what do they value least, and can we maybe take some of this value least to help augment stuff they value more, and that's part of this balancing act too to
Yeah.
consider.
And usually those ones that have time on the books are the ones with all the work knowledge. Those are the ones you don't want to lose. You're like, oh man, if I lose them, that's a lot of institutional knowledge because they're here, you know? I don't know where that balance is.
And those are also less.
Well, that's what we're trying to do. Honestly, we haven't taken this lightly. I mean,
Yeah.
the simplest thing to do would be come in and do away with sick leave.
Correct.
I mean, that's the simplest thing, and that would cure the management side of things.
Right.
But that's not what we're trying to do, and we're trying to look at each employee. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
Like having that military thing, I think that was a great thing. to
Yeah.
Add that to the policy, I thought that was
Right.
really good.
See, we're separating.
Right. That's a good example. Because we have, man, I just asked each one of our captains, find out who's in the military. There's quite a few. We're thinking, oh man, hope they all leave at once.
Yeah.
So, no, like I said, I just wanted to give a little bit of input. I'm not,
That's good.
That's kind of my ideas is, as we're close, let's go ahead and send this out to all the elected officials. We'll have an elected officials meeting and have a conversation about it, get everybody's input, but we still feel like something should be done and needs to be done.
okay. I appreciate you guys listening.
Thanks for coming, appreciate that.
Can they stay for the on-call part too? Because
Yeah.
Oh,
I've got some additional information too.
You better get going, because you only have 10 minutes on the agenda.
You know what? I was gonna say, we need to change
This is a business meeting, this is not a work meeting. Well, Tuesdays are not work meetings. I don't know how many times I have to say this.
Okay, well, okay. So, standard operating procedures is also submitted. And on the cover, you can see there's three things I did. Modifying a few grammatical edits in chapters 3 and 7. Not even going to go over that. But I've added a chapter 9 and a chapter 10. Chapter 9 is on-call time reporting and compensation. And chapter 10 is employee evaluation. So these, again, are not the first time you're seeing these. But I wanted to put it in front of you again, if you had a chance to read through it, if you have any, you feel like we're ready to go, if we're not ready to go on these, if you would like any modifications or changes. We've had a number of discussions, but I wanted to get them in writing and in front of you.
This is another deal where I think all the elected officials need to look them over.
Okay.
I also have some financial impacts that I need to make you aware of when we do get ready to approve this. One of the items, this is a perfect example of a policy that should be implemented prior to budget.
Yeah.
Because when going through the hours, and Teresa's the one that made me think of this. So for our detectives, they are on call every day of the week, basically, which is going to have a financial impact of about $11,000 to the budget, an annual impact.
Per employee or total?
Total. SWAT and admin don't have any restrictions, but then the other impact is going to be those individuals that are on the bubble in the jail. That one is going to have a $33,000 impact, and this is assuming we don't get into overtime. If we get into overtime, it's going to be, take another half of that. So it would be another probably $10,000, $12,000. I don't think we'll have a financial impact from adult probation, juvenile probation. The event center, they thought they could flex most of that time. Road and Bridge, they really shouldn't have an impact because snowplow, they're going to be called out the next day. They very, very, very rarely get called out that night. However, the gas system are covered 7 days a week. Assuming that a non-exempt employee responds, we have an average of $23 an hour to $26 an hour of someone that would respond, and that's regular rate, not overtime rate. That's going to be about $4,000 if they flex the time. Otherwise, it's going to be $10,000 if they do not. If it's an overtime rate, that's going to be up to $14,000. So I think if we were to implement this fiscal year, the policy's, I think, good, but I have concerns with implementing it mid-year or
First month of the year.
And that's just how the timing went.
And I just want to let you know that I am not pushing that this needs to happen now. I just wanted to get this in writing and ready to go, because that is a very solid point. Yeah.
We've already had enough
Yeah.
questions and concerns about this year's budget that we're having to roll with, but, and I just asked Tony in the back before the meeting started if he thought his detectives could flex, and it's work
It'd be
just
hit and
varies.
miss. I think a lot of times it can, but it'd be hit and miss.
The compensation is for 1 hour a day.
Yes. Yes.
Which doesn't sound like a lot until you put numbers to
I
it.
tell you,
Right.
put 24 hours a day.
'Cause
Some
Just lots of
situations.
days, yeah.
And I apologize that I didn't look at the financial impact sooner.
Well, and we need that so we can pass that out to everybody, all elected officials too, so that everybody's looking at all the same data
Okay,
and realize that we're
I'll put it,
3 weeks in, 2 weeks into the budget year, and yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot really, 10,000 here, 5,000 there and stuff, until you have 10 departments all doing it.
okay, I'll put this into a little bit better format,
Okay.
and then, I can, when do you think you'll have that ready to send out? Maybe if you'll send out the policy, then what I'll do, if you'll CC me on that policy, then what I'll do is reply all and include my
Okay.
financial aspect, and then include maybe questions of, do you think you can flex time? If not, let me know and I can adjust numbers, so on and so forth.
Well,
That work?
that's individually, departments can talk with you or come in and talk with us as a commission, and like I said, we need to have policies.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it. But we also need to understand that each department has a little bit different, and in our salary rate, we did a different deal this year of come to the commissioners and we can have separate conversations and titles, and I but I hate that. I hate getting off and varying very much, because then there's no reason to have a policy.
Something went wrong. Please try again.
Well, that takes care of that one.
Okay, so that was the on-call, and then the annual employee performance evaluation does not have an immediate budget impact, right? I mean, so we may even consider implementing that Chapter 10 before we do, that evaluation piece before we do the on-call. But when we do roll this out, it will take, we'll have to do some training and whatnot with that.
And that's another area where I especially want to talk with all elected officials, because they have to talk to all their supervisors, captains, whatever.
And I have
It's got to
sent,
flow down.
and as I have sought feedback, I have sent this out a number of times over the last few months, so this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody.
The only thing I did catch, that I don't know why I didn't catch before, is under the record management, I don't think performance evaluation should be in the payroll file. So
Yeah.
under 10.04, take out payroll. There is absolutely no reason, and I would not want employee evaluations in a payroll file. It needs to just be in the HR file.
Yeah, well, we kind of have a unique setup where the personnel file is divided in both of our departments, right? So
But
that's,
that's okay. You also
Okay.
have I-9s and we don't.
Yeah.
So there's certain things that you have that we don't.
yeah.
I've been thinking about this, Ryan. I would like to add a section on your performance evaluation that pertains to culture. Is a positive impact on the culture?
So on the form itself, maybe another row where we have those circles. Okay. I could work on that.
Given some of the things we've been working on
Yeah.
and looking at some historical issues, if we could have something like this that addresses culture earlier on, maybe we could,
Well, it helps with communication about it, right?
yeah.
Well, we just met with some employees from planning and zoning, and Hal had them go through the training that we all went through. And they both had very positive comments about it, and how Hal still brings out them binders on their staff meetings, and they have conversations about each other, laugh about each other, give each other a bad time about who they are and what their personalities are. But Chase is one that we just visited with, and he says going out and meeting with the public and knowing, kind of the stuff that he's doing. I mean, you guys, your officers, going out and knowing who they are and who the public are and the different things that they are all a little bit different. That's still something that needs to be stressed and moved forward.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
Not for me.